Hi, welcome to the introductory video for Unit 4 of EDAD 6845, School Community Relations. This week we are narrowing our funnel a little bit further. From the last couple of weeks we've looked at schools and modern society. The last week we looked at schools and diverse communities, looking at cultural differences and relationship between schooling as a general state-supported enterprise and communities and how those two interface. Today we narrow that. This week we narrow that funnel even further and look at schools and families and parents. There's a series of readings, Chapter 6 out of the Yellow Book, 3.1 and 3.2 from the Epstein text. We've talked a little about Epstein's 6 types of parental involvement. We'll get the word straight from the horse's mouth this week as we look in Epstein's textbook and hear about her 6 types and some of the applications of them. There's also some additional readings in Moodle, one by myself and Lindsay Jekyll on family and community engagement in charter schools based on research we did here in New Orleans and some conceptual stuff we pieced together. Feel free to look at those. And in terms of deliverables, you have 2 this week. One is an online dialogue, and that's going to be essentially a reflection of what you read in the readings from Epstein in the Yellow Book, Chapter 6, about family engagement, and what practice you see in the schools that you work in. So you'll be answering a series of questions. I've posted them in the Moodle Unit 4 introduction there, so you can answer one or all of those questions. Usually it's a good idea to give a more thorough response to a fewer number of questions than it is to try and give real short answers to all the prompts I put up there. So be in depth more than worrying about covering all the prompts I put out there. But I want to know what's the general level of student engagement or family engagement in your schools, how it got to be that way, what are the great strengths and barriers to improving engagement in your schools, etc., with particular attention to building our favorite word, partnership. Oftentimes, I put in the introduction that you can ask a principal, good ones or not so good ones, how they evaluate their school family involvement, and it's usually going to be the percent of students or families who came to the last open house. And of course, there's all sorts of families who may or may not be able to make those types of events, and those events are often involve coming to the school building, so transportation is a problem. They involve sitting and listening, which if you have other kids is a problem, and they happen at the school site, and they happen in the evening. So if I work in the evening, that's a problem. I teach this course at UNO in family, and school, and community relations, and I think I've only been to one of my students' open houses because I teach at night almost exclusively. And so by some definitions I'm a very uninvolved, very bad parent, but at the other hand I do all sorts of organizing, community input meetings for the school, and do lots of fundraising activities to get extra resources for the school. So to me, I'm a very engaged parent, but depending on the definition the school holds, I may or may not be. And so I think the extent that we can, as educators, have our definition be as broad as possible, we're more likely to see our parents as strengths rather than as problems or challenges. And we need to get to a place where our educators recognize that there are families who their primary contribution to the education of their children is going to be taking care of basic needs, supervision, clothing, food, health, those sorts of things, and perhaps doing a little reading and checking off of homework. That's Epstein's first type, and I think most educators don't necessarily see that as engagement in the education of their child because it's not visible to most parents. We're educators, a lot of us are parents, and we know we do these things, but we don't make the connection to school. But of course, without clothes, food, sleep, and a safe home environment, you have academic problems. So the goal here is to produce students who aren't going to use that one percentage, 65% of my parents came to the open house this week. Yeah, we have decent parental involvement. I want you to expand beyond that and make sure that you understand it's a complicated idea. All parents care about their kids, true. However, all parents cannot interact with the school in the same way because their life is in whatever circumstances it's in. So finding ways for parents to become engaged, both in one-way and two-way communication, is important. And I want you to talk about that richer partnership definition of parent engagement and where that's at with your school. The second part of the assignment is your family surveys. So you'll need to find 25 parents. You'll develop and administer a survey of these parents. It can be either electronically distributed or done on paper. It can be about general overall feelings about the school. It can be their feelings about parental involvement at the school. It can be just a survey of the events off of your current plan analysis that they attended last year and their rating of the effectiveness of those events. It can be about a particular issue that the school is facing that you want to collect information on. So it can be either a broad or narrow scope, but you're collecting information from parents. And this sort of has a twofold purpose. A, it gets you used to the process of going to parents and collecting information and using that to make decisions. So of course, we're here trying to create a revised school community relations plan. So it gets you as future leaders in the habit of seeking your information from parents as a resource to decision making. The second thing this does is it gets parents to recognize that you see them as partners in the education and development of their children. That's the kind of message you want to be sending to your parents. Those are the parents who are going to be seriously involved in the school when they recognize you see their expertise with your students as a great complement to the work you do in school. The very best schools engage their parents in this type of a partnership way, and you want to set the precedent by having parents recognize, oh wow, I've never been to a school where the teachers asked me a survey or sat down for an interview. We'll be doing interviews next week with community leaders. So the survey portion that's due will include a tally of all the survey responses that you use. You may use an old survey from the last 12 months that's been conducted at your school separate from this class. That's fine. Should have at least 10 items. You can analyze no more than 20 if it's a real big survey and you just want to cap it at 20. Look at 20 on a specific area of a previously done survey. That's acceptable. You'll summarize the answers to each question and then provide a 5-page analysis of why you think you got the results you got, and then whatever ideas are percolating out of this analysis that are going to give you some potential revisions to your school community relations plan as you look forward to next week, or your final plan in a couple weeks. The recommendations you make in that final plan are going to involve some activities, programs, dialogue, meetings, etc. But every one of them is going to have to be defended with research and data. And so the readings you do, the parent interviews, the current plan analysis, and then some things upcoming, the community resource map and the community leader interviews, all are legitimate sources of evidence for why you're going to put together the revised plan you're putting together. So this is a first of the actual field work that you'll be doing to that regard. So at this analysis piece should both include a summary of survey results as well as a reflection on why you think that you got the results you got and some potential revised activities that you can include in your final plan. You may take or leave some of those, just as we've said before. If you have any questions about either the online dialogue this week or the parent survey items, please feel free to email or call at the information listed on the syllabus, and I'll see you all online.